Dudes, it's real, I have played Forza Horizon 6, and we have so much to talk about. For the sake of organization, I'm gonna split my coverage into 3 videos, with this first one focusing on nothing but the map. Then we'll talk about car and garage customization, and then we'll wrap up with a sort of final review of this preview, my overall thoughts on everything I experienced during this pretty small slice of the game, where we were able to compete in the Horizon qualifiers. Alright, so welcome to Horizon Japan. This is the full map with just about every single road driven on. But right away, you probably want to see a comparison to Horizon 5. So here you go. I took a 1 kilometer stretch of drag strip in both games to match up the map scales and got what I think is a pretty dang accurate comparison of the 2 maps. I roughly cut out the playable areas of each map, removing the oceans and mountains you can't get to get rough outlines of the actual size for each map, and then calculated the area of each of those spaces and discovered that, again, roughly, Horizon 6's Japan is 25% larger than Horizon 5. Now, this isn't the craziest jump in map size, but what this map is doing so much better is density. Density of roads, density of landmarks and other POIs, and density of elevation, I guess you could say. There is so much elevation to this map, and I think that's one of the bigger issues players had with 5. Sure, there was a big ol' volcano plopped in the middle of the map, but so much of that central area was just a vast expanse of fairly flat desert and farmland, which made the map feel a lot smaller. In Horizon 6, you are constantly going over hills and into valleys of the map that you just can't see from outside those valleys. So much of the map feels tucked away, it feels distant from the other locations because sightlines are so often blocked by mountain ranges or dense forests. There's really only one region where you can see more or less the full map, and that's all the way at the northern tip here in the mountains. But even here, all those ridgelines you can see hide mountain passes, river valleys, towns, parks, temples, and more. The map in Horizon 6 is not too much bigger than Horizon 5, but it does feel a lot bigger. They did a significantly better job of filling the map with interesting and unique locations and fantastic driving roads. They hid areas to make them feel far away with better use of sightlines and elevation, and made sure that those big sweeping vistas that you do occasionally get feel special. I have some smaller critiques and we will get into those, but overall, I think they nailed the map. This was the biggest criticism players had about Horizon 5, and they delivered on it for 6. I think people are going to be really happy. And we need to talk about what they actually put in this map because it does keep getting better. As we've known, Playground finally, for kind of the first time, put multiple racetracks in the open world. And this is a massive improvement for me. Now, these have open world time attack events attached to them, which is awesome. We'll talk about that more later. But just having these tracks at all gives players a natural place to race, rally, or drift. So I went on a mission to find all the circuits in Horizon 6, starting with the one we've seen the most, this Ebisu-like location up in the mountains called Sony Circuit. This track looks like it's going to be a great fit for both low and higher classes of racing. It's wide enough to get side by side, but still somewhat tight by Horizon racing standards. I still think faster cars are going to be really fun here, but where Sony really shines to me is like mid-class racing, and of course is roughly modeled after a real place famous for drifting, so it's good for that too. This course is awesome, the views are top notch here. I think it'll be an easy fan favorite, but let's move on to the next. This is another one we've seen a little bit of from the IGN coverage. It's called Hokubu, and unlike Sony, this one doesn't seem to be too heavily inspired by a real-world location. That said, this one is probably my favorite layout for racing. It's a really fun course. It also has some great elevation. It's still pretty tight, but even in faster cars, you can open it up a bit. Something that'll be a pretty common theme across all these tracks is that they are tighter, shorter courses, much more in the vibe of your local town's racetrack. Something like Yamanashi. Not a huge GP layout, but we will get to that. This course is the only one where we had time attacks unlocked in the preview, and just doing them here at this one course was super fun. It's a very addicting, like just one more lap kind of feel. Similar obviously to Rivals, but for this it's just so easy to jump into because it's all in the open world and a bit more casual. I did discover that you can rewind during the time attacks, which is probably by design. Again, these are meant to be more casual, but it does mean that more dedicated players are probably just going to abuse rewind at least a bit in order to top the boards. We'll see how that all plays out though. Now we're going to move on to the tightest track of the bunch, the best one in my opinion for drifting, Shimanoyama Drift Circuit. This is obviously designed to be a drift layout. It's very tight, very flowy, again with some good elevation, and even considering all the mountain roads, I think this is going to be a big spot for drifting. But also like low-class K-car racing. I love that we have practically a go-kart track that'll make even D-class K-cars feel super fun to race with. Now there is one more track I found on the mainland. We're going to Sekibe Circuit. This is an off-road layout, very much built for rallycross. It's a bit flatter overall, but is somewhat longer than the other paved tracks we've seen so far, and still has some banking and a few bumps and jumps. What's more unique about this circuit is that it has a bunch of layout variations. So for Event Lab, if you want to make your own races here, you have a good handful of built-in options. And like there's even a pretty obvious spot here for a Joker lap. So that is every official racetrack that I found anyway on the mainland. However, there is at least one more. We, of course, could not access Legend Island. You can't get here until you beat the game. Trust me, I tried. But we can still see it on the map, and you can zoom in on photo mode from the mainland to see another racetrack. And unlike the ones we've seen so far, this one looks much bigger, much more of a proper GP circuit with like big runoffs. This is probably going to be the racetrack for high-class competitive racing. And there you have it. Horizon 6 has 5 different racetracks scattered around the map that are built for kind of all different types of driving. This alone is such a massive improvement over really anything else we've had in the series. We've been wanting racetracks in Horizon forever. And yeah, Horizon 5 gave us a decent road track, and I guess sort of a rallycross / cross-country circuit area as well, but nothing like this. This is so much better. And the fun doesn't stop there, because now it's time to talk about the Touges. We did know these were coming in some capacity, but I did not think we were getting actual proper road layouts of famous mountain passes in Japan. When I first jumped into the game, of course, as soon as I could, I paused to look at the map and scan around to find places that looked interesting. Almost right away, this stuck out to me as familiar. This is actually Mount Haruna. You might know this as Mount Akina from Initial D, but it is also a real place. Here's an overlay of Google Maps against the in-game map, and you can see it's pretty much the same, but not entirely one-to-one. They are kind of missing the true start point of the layout, with the parking areas on both sides all covered by trees, and the first corner is definitely wider in Horizon than in real life, but then the rest of the layout is very close until you get to the end, where the Horizon layout does end before the true layout. You miss like the last kilometer or so of the run. Now, as you drive this road, you aren't gonna see like all the exact same props and buildings along the layout. Some places where there should be signs, houses, or other landmarks aren't there. So again, not a one-to-one, but it is so much closer than I ever expected. So mixed isn't the right word for this, but I'm kind of mixed because on the one hand, it's so unbelievable to me that we have this at all. Open world Japan game with Mount Haruna, it's incredible, but also like slightly a bummer that it's just 80% of Haruna. In a perfect world, I would have loved to see the full layout, or at least a few more buildings and props to match the look of the real place. That said, ignoring the fact that this is a real place, it's still just an amazing road in Horizon. Like, regardless of how close it matches the real thing, it's just a good road to have. We don't get a lot of this stuff in the series, and now we're overflowing with it. So that is one of the Touges I found in Horizon 6. Let's jump over to another one we've seen in some early shots, Hakone Nanamagari. Now this one is a much shorter section of road. In real life, and again in Initial D, the switchbacks part of the road is just part of a much bigger pass. That said, this is by far the most popular section of it, and in Horizon, even has a matching bit of highway crossing through the hairpins, which is a very important detail. Again, may not be the full thing. I mean, this one's really just one famous chunk of the full layout, but it's still really cool to see. Fuji, and is another type of road that we've just never had before in Horizon. Power builds will not work here. Now, I also found Bandai Atsuma while cruising around. This one we heard about in the Dev Direct, and this is a pretty huge stretch of road in the mountains of Japan, nearly 30 kilometers long, very famous driving road, and in Horizon it looks like we're getting a more inspired chunk of it. More traditional Horizon style, where it's like, yeah, you can tell what this is supposed to be, but it's not a full copy. And that's fine. Like, to be honest, all of my criticisms here exist within the idea that this is really cool overall and kind of exceeds my expectations. Just getting a bunch of mountain roads is nice. The fact that they're inspired to varying degrees by real places is even cooler. It does just leave that idea on the table of like, ah man, it'd be cool if we got the full thing, but that just isn't feasible in a Horizon style map. And speaking of routes that feel more loosely inspired by a real place, I also found the Norikura skyline. Similar to Bandai Atsuma, this is much more of a spiritual recreation, taking some parts from the route and blending them together into a pretty good-sized road that gives you the general feeling without matching every corner one-to-one. At least, I don't think. This is not a layout I'm very familiar with. But I did cruise around Google Maps for a while and saw plenty of spots that look similar. The overall scenery is very close, and again, this road is a blast. Okay, so this is where I need your guys' help. I found a handful of other spots that look like they could be real locations. This spot here that goes winding up a mountain has a hairpin at the top, and then this very real looking set of corners next to a river has gotta be inspired by a real place. This section just looks too familiar and intentionally designed. This, by the way, is an incredible road. Driving along the river is just gorgeous. I am sharing the image I made of the full map, so you guys pour it over, and if you find anything else recognizable, definitely let me know. There are quite a few other mountain roads scattered around, so I think there's gotta be more named routes. And with that, we've now covered all of the racetracks and mountain passes that I could find. I am, again, so glad to have all of this. It's more than I could have hoped for, and that's on top of also having a massive city and a highway with multiple routes. Yeah, we've held off long enough. Let's talk about Tokyo. For a Horizon map, it's a huge city. They weren't joking when they said it's the biggest one yet, and what, like 5 times the size of Guanajuato? Which, based on my map, is actually a bit of an undersell. I calculated it at 5.4 times larger. That said, even considering Surfer's Paradise, this is the first time I truly feel like we've gotten a real modern city in Horizon. Now, obviously Tokyo is one of the biggest cities in the world. Its true size would dwarf this entire map, so it was never going to be massive on that scale. But like with the map as a whole, they've done a great job of playing with perspective and sightlines to make the city feel truly big. And I mean, it is big. This is actually a pretty realistically sized downtown area for a small to medium city in the real world. And we've just never had that before. So like with most things in Horizon, and honestly in video games in general, it feels real enough. It is super dense with a ton of variety. The different districts all feel distinct. There are tons of recognizable landmarks all over. I love that they put a bunch of parks around the city, including some bigger named ones. That's something so iconic to Tokyo for me. And then, of course, you've got Tokyo Tower, Shibuya Crossing, Ginkgo Avenue, and then the Rainbow Bridge, which, unlike real life, this time takes you over to Daikoku, and an industrial area very reminiscent of Oi Wharf. Then across the bay, you have a big docks area where that Rush event from the IGN coverage takes place, and this has plenty of real estate for drifting and stunts. It's obviously an evolution of like the docks area from Horizon 2 or the shipping crates area in Horizon 4. This area also has a huge multi-story parking garage. Back in downtown though, there are tons of little back streets to discover. These are going to be great photo spots, I'm sure, but you can't go everywhere. everywhere. This is where some of that video gaminess comes into play. Tokyo in Horizon is a big city, but some of it is out of bounds and only used for decoration. Now that's fine, really every Horizon game has done this, it's very normal for gaming as a whole, but it is worth mentioning. A lot of these neighborhood areas, especially around the outskirts of the city, cannot be driven through, or maybe like have one through street. So you do still get the feeling of being in a city, but a lot of these pocket neighborhoods are just for show. I also want to point out that while the city as a whole is great, I couldn't find any underground parking, and that shocked me. I thought for sure we were gonna get an underground parking garage, especially considering the fact that Akiba is a location in the game and has the very famous UDX parking garage right there. I feel like it would have been a sure thing to have something similar in the map. Maybe I just haven't found it, but I looked all over, I swear. With that though, we gotta talk about the highway, because within Tokyo City alone, there are like half a dozen highway routes. It's not just one loop, there are tons of entrances and exits and overpasses and ramps, and you can seriously get lost on the highway as it winds through the city. It's amazing, they nailed it. There is a sort of C1-ish loop, not one-to-one at all, but kind of a loop that feels and looks C1-ish. And then look at Daikoku, this is a proper mess of highway as it should be. And over at the Rainbow Bridge, you actually have both layers of the road that are drivable. People that love cruising the highway are gonna have so much fun just in the city. Like, it will take you some time to learn how to navigate the highway. Also, you guys were right, this is meant to be the Tatsumi parking area. I wish it looked a little closer to the real thing, but still, like with the mountain roads, it's neat that it's here at all. Now, of course, the highway extends beyond just downtown Tokyo. There is a huge loop surrounding a big chunk of the map, and this is a great layout for some high-speed cruises. Finally, we don't just have a straight back and forth strip of highway, we actually have a proper loop again, and this is hands down the best one we've had yet. In an A-class car averaging around 150 miles an hour, it took me over 10 minutes to complete a loop of the highway. And what's crazy is that this loop doesn't even encompass the whole map. Like, there is a chunk of map north of the highway and even quite a bit south of it as well. So this game has the best highways in Horizon by a long shot. Also, the most roads and highest road density as well, the biggest and most detailed city by far, multiple racetracks, multiple named mountain passes, and multiple drag strips. Although that isn't much of a new thing, but hey, these ones are actually functional, like with working light trees and multiplayer functionality, and they even have proper return roads as well. They're kinda checking all the boxes here when it comes to the map, but you guys know there is one aspect of open worlds that is so important to me, and it's something that a lot of racing games drop the ball on. So, how full of life is Horizon 6's Japan? Well, we can start back in the city. Guys, they did find the lost code for walking pedestrians, and they are all over. Of course, with this being a game targeting an E for everyone rating, they can't put pedestrians in the streets where you could hit them or try to hit them, but I do feel like they kind of did what they could within that limitation. There are some very lively parts of the city. That was always a big thing missing from Horizon 5. Not a single pedestrian walked in that game, and Guanajuato felt like a ghost town. But now you see people a lot more often. This extends outside the city as well. There are people like at the racetracks, for example. The festival is absolutely full of them. And then even in some of the walled off parks or areas you might not think would be busy, they put a lot of people. Now, it's not like the map is swarming with pedestrians. There are definitely many spots in the city, for example, that still feel emptier than they realistically would be. Like the parks that you can drive through don't have any people in them because you'd be able to try hitting them. But overall, it is a big step up, and most of the time is enough to at least sort of sell the experience to me, and that's all I ever wanted. Vehicle traffic is, I think, fine as well. Some people are, I'm sure, going to be bummed it's not super packed in the city, and I do get that from an immersion standpoint. While there is a level of activity here, it's not like a real city amount of traffic. It's more of a 3 a.m. kind of vibe. But obviously, those are sacrifices made for both performance and, more importantly, gameplay. rush hour traffic is not my idea of fun driving, so I'm okay with this. It's enough to add a level of variety and liveliness and dynamic driving without being annoyingly dense and ruining my ability to race through the city. Now the traffic, for like the first time ever, actually now extends beyond people and cars. They took a page out of the Rally Adventure book and put helicopters flying around over Tokyo. And there are moving boats. Other Horizon games have had boats, but they were all stationary. Now they move. And then, of course, we got trains. We have the Shinkansen, the bullet train. You'll see this kind of all over the map. But then there's also local metro lines through the city. And I guess like a regional train that I saw going all over the map as well, with stops in some of the towns. Just like with the highways, it isn't just one simple loop for the trains. There are actually multiple trains and lines all over the place. I know it's silly to get excited about boats, planes, and trains in a car game, but these are the things that sell that experience. It's what makes the map feel real and alive, and I love it. For wildlife, there are birds all over the map that fly away as you drive past them, and get ready for my favorite thing ever in a Forza game. As a huge aquarium nerd, koi fish, like real swimming koi fish and multiple varieties of them. I love this. The last time I was in Japan, like half the videos I took were of the fish in the lakes and ponds, and they actually put them in the game. It's all about those small details. Horizon 6 is definitely the most alive map we've ever had. There is still room for improvement. Not being able to put pedestrians where cars can go is a pretty big restriction, but they have met my expectations here. I wanted a map that felt more alive, and I did get one. It's very clear that they put effort into this. And with that, folks, it's time to wrap up this deep dive into Horizon 6's map. Of course, there is so much of the world that I didn't see and didn't show off to you guys. Like, we barely went to any of the smaller towns. We didn't check out the stadium or anything. We can't get to Legend Island. There is so much left to explore, and it feels worth exploring. This is easily the best map they've ever done. And while it is going to take some time for this sort of honeymoon phase to wear off, my early thought is that this could be finally a Horizon map worthy of being among my favorite racing game worlds of all time. It's not as big as TDU 1 and 2 or The Crew 1 and 2, but it is so densely packed with Japanese landmarks and landscapes, and the road layouts are fantastic. We do have to end with a final critique though, and this is kind of a weird one. So the player base has kind of been figuring this out as time goes on, and by now I'm sure you've all realized Mount Fuji is not part of the map. And while most people knew the whole thing wouldn't be drivable or anything, I and many others still hoped we'd be able to drive like right up to the base of it, or maybe even partway up the mountain. Now what's extra odd about this is that Fuji Kawaguchiko, a beautiful town at the base of the mountain that was the very first thing we saw in the reveal trailer, is also not in the game. You'd think it would be right here. Like, this lake has some very obvious similarities to the real one, and is even oriented in the correct direction to Mount Fuji. I think this is where the town was supposed to be. I think they wanted to put it here, but couldn't for some reason. Now, this is especially strange because it means that nothing we saw in that reveal trailer is actually a part of the game. I mean, yeah, Mount Fuji is technically in the game as part of the backdrop, but you can't get anywhere near it. And this town just flat out doesn't exist in the game whatsoever, which really bums me out because I've actually stayed here. And when I saw that reveal trailer, I was so excited to be able to go back there in the game. I thought, of course it'll be part of the game. Why would they show it otherwise? And funny enough, in game, there is another lake that's right next to Mount Fuji. This is like a full one-to-one recreation of Lake Motosu, but it's out of bounds as well. They've never done this before, putting like multiple major landmarks outside the bounds of the map. So I think this was supposed to be drivable in an early version of the map, because why else would the reveal trailer show it to us? And why else would this landscape match up so well? Maybe, hopefully, on my maximum dose of hopium, this will be an expansion area, and they're finally connecting DLC maps to the base game, but I don't want to get my hopes up for that. Anyways, there you have it, dudes. Horizon Japan. It is an amazing amazing map that has by and large met and in some ways exceeded my expectations. It was never gonna have everything everyone wanted, but I feel like they did a pretty dang good job nonetheless. The expectations here were very high, so of course let me know what you all think about the map, where they did well, what you maybe think they could have done better. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you very soon for a deep dive on cars, handling, and customization.